Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming to today's lecture. Today we have Professor Krohn from Switzerland and talk about a very interesting topic, which is called Make in Switzerland. And before that, let me introduce firstly myself. My name is Bim Leung. I'm the senior lecturer in the Department of Architecture, Interior and Product Design, Hong Kong Design Institute. And today the speaker is Professor Krohn. And Professor Krohn actually is one of the very important person in the Zurich University of Art. His position is the head of the Center of Sustainability. And he's lecturing, researching, and also publishing about these topics, especially in the industrial design and sustainable design. So it would be great for us to hear from him on what is meant by Make in Switzerland. Beforehand, when I get contact on this topic, I have to think about it. Make in Switzerland, meaning that it is a country of origin where some product or some service or some design were made. I also look at some, if you have a Swiss watch, watch like this, you find that actually it right down there is called Swiss made, meaning that it made in Switzerland. So that's pretty simple. But at the same time, things get pretty complicated nowadays. When you look at the iPhone 14, it will list down saying that it's designed in California, and then it says it's assembled and production in China. So things get really complicated in this case. So what is made in something? So let us have Professor Krohn to tell us what is made in Switzerland. Please, Professor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Very good.
I can't start my video.
You have to share the screen. Yeah. If you can share the screen first.
Yeah, now you can see me?
Yeah, we can. Hi.
Okay, so hello everybody from Zurich. We have here morning since you have already afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to this master lecture. Thank you that Zurich University of the Arts is a partner of this master lecture series, and thank you have you from the, let's say, big Hong Kong and I on small Switzerland. I will talk a little bit about Swiss made and design, and as Blanc already introduced, by my profession, I'm an industrial designer. I have roots very long ago, roots in mechanical engineering. Today, I'm the head of the Center of Sustainability. And in between, I was head of the industrial design education and head of Master of Arts in Design. But nowadays, I'm caring more about how our world will look like in the next future. And this has a lot to do with the topic I will talk about today's master lecture. I say this because some examples are from industrial design and real production, but I will also talk a bit about other fields, innovation, research, etc., because I think everything is interconnected. So I start my screen. Okay, I hope you can see this.
Yes, very good.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. As introduced, we are talking today about the term design made in Switzerland or made in Switzerland in general. And I will focus on, let's say, the transformation of a society, but also the transformation of education and the design discipline as we faced it in the last, let's say, 50 years. And for that, I will go also a little back to the roots and explain our way from, let's say, the last century or even earlier today. And I will highlight on this term design made in, because I think the term made in will become, as Bim Leung already said, a little bit complicated in our times. So, but probably just glimpse what I do. I by myself, as said, I'm an industrial designer. I have my own small design agency still in Zurich. We do a lot of products for customers in Switzerland, but also internationally. And I'm also professor here at the Tony Areal, where Zurich University of the Arts is located. And I'm sitting here now in this huge building. Okay, I will start with, or I have prepared for you 3 chapters, and I will start with the claim, made means more than just produced today. And the first chapter is a little bit about the culture and heritage of Swiss design or Swiss production in general. Then we will look at strategies of innovation and internationalization. And the last chapter is about the ecosystem of designer and products as we understand it today. So probably some of you already know this iconic brand. That's the famous Swiss Crossbow. This goes long, long back in history in the Middle Ages, where probably you know that the crossbow is a weapon, and the weapon was carried by William Tell, the famous literature hero of the Swiss history. And Switzerland was very clever to use this as a sign for Swiss made. So that's a brand that's worldwide recognized. It identifies Swiss heritage, quality and innovation worldwide. So that's we brand our things we at least produce here with this iconic iconic brand, which is known all around the world. And another thing, it's just by accident that Beam Long this already showed you. It's not only a brand, it's also on the product itself. And here you see a watch from EVC that's more or less a luxury brand watch. And it says here in small typography, it says Swiss made. Very, very small, very, let's say, not so, you don't see it in the first sight that it's produced in Switzerland. But we ask ourselves, what does this mean today in a globalized world? Does this mean it's produced in Switzerland? Does this mean it's developed in Switzerland? It's designed in Switzerland? It's engineered in Switzerland? So actually, we don't know it exactly. What does this mean? And at the far end, what does this promise? Is it better as a product from United States or from Italy or from Great Britain? And what does this mean today in a globalized society where also designer works international? So something is designed in the United States, it's engineered in Germany, and finally it's produced in China. So what does this mean, this term made, and especially Swiss made? Here we have a collection, and it starts in the 20th century. And these are all products which are, yes, first of all designed, then probably produced or branded in Switzerland. And if you see here, for example, this highway signage that's in North America, but actually it's written in a Swiss typography. So Switzerland has a long heritage of design and designing products, graphics, textiles, watches, cars, etc. But also has this distinction that we go outside of our country with our achievements. So watches, for example, are worldwide known. The Helvetica typeface is worldwide known. The Swiss Army knife is worldwide known. So it stands for something. And here it connects to Swiss made, because Swiss made, it's not a typical way something is produced. It's more the character behind the product or behind the graphic or behind the textiles. But let's look a little bit in the history. People always think largely, in Switzerland, all people are very wealthy, it's luxury, it's very clean. So that's true probably only for the last half of century, because before that, especially before the Second World War, Switzerland was largely a poor agriculture country. So we were in the middle of Europe. We have no resources here. We have no oil. We have no iron. We have no gas. We have even not a lot of sun here. So we were a poor country, and Switzerland was mainly agriculture, while the other neighbors, France, Germany, Austria, were much more rich than we are. And Switzerland has to, in a way, invent itself to have the same wealth as our neighbors. And this started with, these are only some examples. There are more examples, but I would like to emphasize on 3 examples, how the Swiss agriculture transferred into in a more, let's say, innovative driven society, where especially export plays an important role. First of all, watchmaking. Watchmaking is very interesting because the people who had a farm in winter, they had not a lot to do. So they went home to their homes and they started to do homework and work for watch companies. So that was very typical. So they started to produce in the Alps, in small huts. They started to produce parts for watches. And this is actually the source of the Swiss watch industry, that a lot of very, very small companies started to make parts of watches, and then a watch company put it together to a watch. But actually, the roots are in a agriculture society. The same counts a little bit for textiles. Switzerland is also important for textiles, even they have no resources, so they have they have not a lot of wool or other resources for textiles. But what they did is to treat raw material to textiles, and this was largely done by small companies which had the infrastructure. And for example, what is really famous for is embroidery from the east part of Switzerland. So skilled people started to produce very beautiful textiles. This is the other source, skilled people. So in this time, Switzerland started to have these apprenticeships. That means young people went to a company, learned a certain craft, started to be skilled, and then produced, for example, these textiles. The third example is heavy industries. Here you must know that Switzerland had the luck. This is, let's say, the only resource we really have. It's water. We have water in the Alps from the snow. When the snow starts to melting, gets water. And Switzerland collected the water in big dams, and we produced electricity out of these dams. And this electricity was the source for heavy industries, and also here for trains. Switzerland was one of the first countries who had a completely covered train system by electricity. And this was far before the other neighbors had the same. So they had still locomotives with coal driven or other sources, even gasoline. But we had already in the middle of the last century, we had 100% covered train system by electricity. And this, and here comes again the industry and the economy. We started to produce these heavy locomotives, cars, and other stuff in huge factories. So this is the next scale. This is mainly in the larger towns of Switzerland, where companies were founded who produced this heavy stuff. And here comes engineering and sales. So engineering is the, let's say, the intelligent use of materials, knowledge, science to produce these type of locomotives. And then you need people who can produce that in these factories. But soon Switzerland discovered that they can export these locomotives because other countries were eager to see this technology, to use this technology for their own purpose, and to buy this technology. And so this was the step out of a very poor agriculture country into a highly, let's say, industrialized country. And if you put all things together, then you can emphasize on three parts. First of all, quality. Things, products who are made in Switzerland have a really high quality. They are reliable, they are durable, they are working for years and years. You even see these locomotives still today on the train because they are so long lasting. So they even sell it to other countries today after, let's say, 60 years of use. Then the next factor is precision. Precision means to produce things who are really on the top, on the spot, precise. They work as you expected. And the third part is innovation. So invent things. That's you must imagine if you're a poor country and the only source you have is your creativity and your eagerness to do something new. Innovation comes really first. And these zippers, which we all know all around the world, billions of zippers all around, they were invented in Switzerland. And this is also some, you might say, this is a result of the watch industry, because the watch industry produced small things who had work precisely. So from tradition to innovation, and here in some steps, you see on the left side, these ladies who are producing textiles. And what do you use for that? You use skilled people, but you use also infrastructure. That means tools and machines. And this led to the right side of the picture, to the tool making and tool machining. Here, this is actually a former company in Zurich who produced big turbines to produce electricity. So that's the next step. And then from that, you go in the, let's say, 60s of the last century to the precision engineering, to precision mechanical parts like cameras, typewriters, sewing machines, all this stuff who need very precise parts. And then we come today where highly skilled people are working in the tech industry, in the medical industry, but also still we are producing trains, we are producing equipment for many sectors of the industry. So that's the natural step from tradition to innovation. And we look now how this strategy of innovation, which are rooted in our society, in our economy, is the source for innovation and internationalization. So that's the second part. For that, you must know that the Swiss education system is based on, let's say, three parts. First of all, we have an economy which is offers practice and academic training in universities and companies. So we have a two-legged system. I will later talk about that, which combines education in mainly stately universities, but also companies are a vital part of that. Then the application. So we do basic and applied research in universities and enterprises. So research and apply your knowledge to products is very, very important. And then we have a wide range of enterprises from very, very small industry to bigger cluster industries, which need this knowledge, but also the applied sciences. And this is the reason why Switzerland really is one of the most inventive countries based on research and development. So we have academic excellence. That means all our education system, especially then the universities. We have a lot of startups. We have partners in the industry, so we connect education and industry. We are supported by innovation services and have a great infrastructure here with transport, with airports. We have also a very good tax system here. So this also all supports innovation. So yeah, we are one of the most innovative countries. We have the highest ratio of patents, and we apply these patents. We have research and education institutes, mainly universities. We have highly skilled employees and excellent industry. It changed over the time. So many of the companies you saw like 30 years before are probably not existing anymore, but they were substituted by new companies which are doing other things, but the basic are still employees and a lot of knowledge. And then we have a vibrant startup and entrepreneur culture. That means we use the potential of knowledge, of finances, of governmental support and seed money to create new jobs and new enterprises. So you see everything is connected. And this at the end gives this startup map where different sectors of the industry create new companies, and this means new jobs, new patents, new educations, etc. So this is a very rough table which I draw. You see in green the traditional industry. The traditional industry is the heavy industry, the textile industry. So everything, let's say, in the last century, it had its peak like before the 1980s. Then a lot of things were cheaper made, often also better made abroad. Especially China plays here an important role, but also countries like India or Latin America. So this led to more import. So things were still designed and engineered in Switzerland, but were produced abroad. And then in the late 80s, new industry started here in Switzerland, digital industry, bioscience, medical, robotics, etc., which are supported by the government, but also has its roots by industries and educational institutions. So you see here the green probably is declining, but the red one is starting to become more and more important. And still, we have a high rate of employees here. We have really a low rate of unemployed people, but it depends more and more on very good educations which are offered here by our country. The other thing is go global. We are really a small country. We have only 8 million inhabitants, so Switzerland is very small, and we saw that the domestic market is not enough for us. So Switzerland started to make networks globally. We have our embassies, we have our consulates, and we have, for example, Swissness, our business hub. But we have also Swiss export support for all around the world. And this is, for example, very important for the watch industry, that the watch industry gets support for the government to export its watches worldwide, beyond customs, beyond taxes, etc. So they are supported because we know that the export is vital for us. You see this also in the figures. That's quite interesting. The importance of the export market. We have a GDP of around 750 billion US dollar, but we export more than the half. It's 442 billion US dollar. This is 60% of our GDP goes abroad. You see here probably some countries which are bigger than we are, but Sweden and Austria has a lower export rate than we have. So that means if you look at that line, we produce things, and 60% of that is actually exported. So we export more than, or nearly a little bit less than Sweden produces, but we export more than Austria produces in general. So that's important, that the export market is basic for us. And this can only be done if technology, economy, and culture plays together. This makes innovations tangible and distributes the value of Swiss design. So our design is based on these three pillars: technology, economy, and culture. And this is where Switzerland has its real innovations. And where does it come from? Here you see a table how the Swiss education system works. And it's important that you know that everything is connected. So we start with 3 years mandatory basic and primary and secondary school. So every young child has to go for 9 years in the school, and then you can either decide to do an apprenticeship. Apprenticeship means work for 3 or 4 years in a company and go parallel to that to a so-called practice school. And at the other end, at the other side, you can also go to high school for 4 years. And after that, you have a degree, and you can either go into or to follow the academic way, which means a real university or a university of applied sciences. You do your master and your bachelor there, or you can follow your practice career on the job. The academical career might end with a PhD, but what we offer for everybody are continuous education, Master of Advanced Studies and Certificate of Advanced Studies for everybody. And the interesting thing on this table here is that everything is interconnected. So that means even if you start with an apprenticeship and you do your career in the job, you can later join a university of applied science or even a real university and do your studies there. And that's what a lot of people do here. So they combine practice, skills and knowledge with academical career, and they work in the job, but they go after that probably to a university and become highly skilled people. So this leads then to, we call it design for innovation, because as an export-oriented country, design is one access to success, that the rest of the world sees what we do here. Design improves innovations, attract investors, and are recognized globally. And for that, design is an essential factor. Design, constantly innovation is very important for design. So from large scale or even mid-sized company or small startups, we motivate them to collaborate as soon as possible with designers, so that we can, based on that, we can build up new business models and new companies and also new products. So design is not only make things nicely, it's also a driving factor for innovation itself. And this means at the end, Swiss design combines these factors. It's inventive and intelligent, simple, aesthetic and useful. It's always close to engineering and fabrication because we have this applied thinking in our heads. It's functional and stylish. This is just one example you might know in Asia as well. The Nespresso capsule system. It's like the invention of coffee drinking, you might say, but actually it's a new business model where Nestle got a lot of money out of it. But it's also about design, how you design a coffee machine that offers this quality, what are based in this coffee capsule system. Then you create probably very nicely designed shops for this selling this coffee. And at the end, you have film stars who are advertising this coffee worldwide. So you see that's a connected system from engineering over design to marketing to interior design. So everything is interconnected, and this chain of value creates income for our society. So let's go to the last chapter. I talk a little bit about the ecosystem of designers and products. So how design is, let's say, embedded in our society and our economy. So a lot of people say Swissness, that's sophisticated but modest, and I think that's quite true. And it's based on renowned author designers and design agencies, which are all around Switzerland. In all parts, you find designers and design agencies. You find also art schools in all parts. We have small design studios, which are creating new business models, for example, interaction, game design, video production, but also let's say the older disciplines like textile design, fashion, or product design. We see arts and crafts designers who produce their stuff by themselves still. And we have also in-house designers which are working for larger enterprises. And this is how these are probably results. So you see still from handcraft to technology, to production, to exhibition. So that's also like a value chain where design plays a vital role. And we offer that to our industry. And the designer here can decide if he or she likes to go to a company or to an agency or set up the own business model. And this is depending on an ecosystem. We are fostering our talents in our education institution and also private enterprises. They are really important for that. We have diverse and a very vibrant support of services. We are constantly looking in the future. So as said before, innovation, it's very, very important for us. We try to convince engineering, marketing, all our neighboring disciplines to make use of design. We start work in new collaborations, and entrepreneurial thinking and startup support is also very important. And this means, for example, design competitions, which are supported by our government, which are done yearly, but also a system where our government supports young designers and takes them abroad, worldwide, and they can show their achievements, products, textiles, graphic design within exhibitions. And here, probably our guest from Monday plays a role, the Swiss consular, where the Swiss consulates support Swiss designers everywhere on the world. And now to close my speech, I want to highlight some, not all, but some aspects of innovation. We started to talk about made in or produce things, and this is something where a lot of research is going in. Here you see a roboter which is producing a wall from brick stones. This is still research, but it's already applied on some building sites where you don't have building workers, but a robot who is building a wall. And the interesting thing here is that you can design the wall as you like, and the robot is doing what you like to do. So you can do crazy forms with these robots, which are not able to do with humans, and this offers completely new design opportunities for architects, for example. Then experience is a very, very important term here. Experiencing new things. We all think about, for example, the meta world, or we think about game design, but we can also think about our body, immersive impressions. This is a project here done by our university, the bird flying simulator. So this man here on this machine thinks he is a bird, so he has virtual glasses and he sees the world around him, and he can really fly with his arms and his legs, and he has the complete immersion that he is now in the air and is flying around a city or a landscape. And if he turns his head looking at one or the other side, he sees what is surrounding him. So that's a complete immersion, and this is done in a collaborative work of designers and engineers. Then this is also close to engineering, a self-sufficient living cell. So this is a container. We did this some years ago with the Swiss research. It's actually a nature research institute. We ask ourselves, is it possible that we can build a shelter where two people can live and have no resources from the outside? That means no electricity, no water, no heating from outside. So everything is produced in this cell itself. And here comes design in, because design says how we live in our environment, and what is let's say a comfortable lifestyle. And this is like integrated in this living cell. But actually it's research, and it's still a laboratory, but it shows that you can live with that what the nature is giving you: sun, water, air, and you can be self-conscious that everything you need is around you, and this cell is designed that it supports an isolated living. As you probably know, we are a nation of skiers, so we have snow, but through the climate warming, we see that the ski season is shorter and shorter. This was actually a masterwork of one of my master students, and he had, first of all, a very crazy idea. He said sledging, and probably you know sledging, it's not skiing, you sit on a sledge and you go down the hill on the snow. But he asked ourselves, can I transfer the feeling of sledging into the summer? And we first thought that that's a very crazy idea, but let's do it. And he designed a car or something like a car, and you need your body to steer the car. And it's actually exactly the same as you do in the winter on the snow, but here it's in the summer with wheels. And actually it's summer sledging. And he founded now a company. He is having a business model for this sledge for tourist locations, and they buy that and they rent that out to tourists. And so it's one solution probably, or one answer on the warming climate for our tourism industry. But still, our designers are exploring the boundaries by research. So this is actually a research project with interactive elements which are producing sound by touching it, by having light on it. So it's an interactive sound installation. And here it's not about the design itself. It's more about let's say the possibilities new technologies offers for designers, and they play around with what they can do. As I said before, we are completely convinced that co-creation is very vital. So designers work together with engineers, work together with sociologists, with nature science, to come up with something new. And we call this co-creation, but we also integrate users in that. We integrate politicians in the design process. so to better know and better hear what they need, but also what they would avoid. Because I think designers should learn not only from the history, but also from the present. And we always say, go out and listen to the people, listen to the engineers, what they say about your idea. So connecting designers with other disciplines, it's highly important. And then we talk about co-creation. And still, that's for me the fundamentals and the basics of design, ideas and inspiration. So yeah, do crazy stuff. Think about what could be the future of our mobility in this case, self-driving cars, which navigate themselves, where you can live in. And we motivate the students to show their ideas and their inspiration, because we don't see it as a final result, but we see it as a contribution to the society, to talk about these things and open a discussion if what our cities shaped like. So what is the future of our cities? What is the future of our society? And here designers can contribute. So I'm coming now to an end. Let's summarize this a bit. We started in the last century with a very, very poor country shaped by agriculture, no resources, no export, no goods, so very, very poor. And today, 22, Switzerland has changed from this agriculture society to an open and diverse urban multicultural society. So 30% of our inhabitants are not born Swiss, they are coming from all around the world. They visit our universities, they found companies, they start producing things. And this vibrant, let's say this vibrant ecosystem supports that. And in aspect to design, just a recent study says that 20% of jobs in Greater Zurich are depending on design, art, culture, which are doing creativity, identity, and knowledge. So this is what I want to really focus on, that the term made means more than produce. It means having fresh ideas, showing innovations, but that they should be ready for the market. So this connection between knowledge and practice is very important. And we had old industry, we had a huge agriculture production, but today more and more jobs are based on creativity, on people who are designing something, inventing something, and still producing something, but probably not anymore in this large scale, more in a sophisticated and modest way. What is our future? We see creativity and design as driving forces for our culture and economy. And we are able to connect with design the dots of our economic system, and open new environments for work, business, and startup initiative. In this case means made, and this is where we started from, means open new opportunities for your society. So coming to an end, what can we learn? Which Switzerland, as a really small country, can be seen as an example how design can be a driving force for culture, economy, and the society. We had several major economic changes, but design and innovation remained always an identifiable value. That's the Swiss made, which we saw on Beam's watch. This is mainly based on a very good education ecosystem and sustainable culture of thinking and acting. And this creates at the far end a huge outreach and identification for such a small country as Switzerland is. So thank you for attention. I think I kept the time. I hope that gave you some insights in what was made in Switzerland and what is it today. And I'm now open for your questions and remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Krohn. It is an excellent lecture. So we learn about what is Switzerland design and also what it means by design made in Switzerland, which means very different from the mark on my watch. Now we open the floor and see whether there are some questions. And before that, actually, I may start with asking about the startup first, Professor. We learned that actually you have a lot of new startup, and actually it's been encouraging youngster, whether it's designer or entrepreneur, to get a small startup to get on. And you also mentioned about there has been some funding for those startups. Can you elaborate that? For instance, in Hong Kong, we have different funding for new startup. Some go up to $1 million. So how's the situation in Switzerland there?
Yeah, it's similar, but we have to distinguish a bit between, let's say, startups who are based on a patent that's mainly nature science. It might be in the medical industry, in the bio industry, but also engineering. So they invent something, mostly in the universities, they do a patent. And then after that, they can ask for seed money. And we have mainly two sources. One is let's say, the governmental sources who are funding companies who are promising or have a promising return on investment and coming from our universities. So that means the government has the experience that an education does not finish with your graduation diploma.
Yeah.
If you have a good idea which was invented in the university, you should support these people further into the market. So we have a very leveled system of educational and governmental support for these sorts of companies. But then we have also the private sector. The private sector, it's companies, but it's also foundations and yes, non-governmental organizations which are eager to see good ideas, invest money. But there is also money from the cultural sector, which is like for free, granted. As you saw in this example from Pro Helvetia, they are supporting companies to show what Switzerland is doing abroad. And so this is also some sort of support. So it's based on three different legs. And at the end, if a company is successful in the market, it's not only depending on their support, it's more depending how they see their market and how they can adapt their idea to the market. We see some really successful companies, but we also see failures.
Thank you. As you mentioned about the design education, actually there is questions on the design education in Switzerland. I just get the summary on that because it's a long question.
Okay.
So maybe the last sentence that is asking is, where do the issue of sustainability and regeneration stand in the strategies of Swiss design education? So how is sustainability and regeneration in the education?
It becomes more and more important because the industry and also designers see that they are part of the problem, because we are designing things which are produced, used, and then thrown away, or going into the nature and making damage. So we are part of the problem, but we can also be part of the solution, that we offer new systems of products, that we offer new services. And here a new thinking began, let's say, in the last 10 years, where we say designers are responsible. Designers are responsible for what they do, how they do it, and what knowledge is behind. So we are teaching here systems that are creating circular economy, products that are reusable, repairable, that are sharing economy is something really important. And I have a little bit of history because I'm teaching design now for nearly 30 years. And I see that 30 years before, design students like to design a Porsche or a Ferrari or a very expensive watch. But this is completely gone. Our students do social systems, they do reusable products, repairable products. And this is something which at one way it's the young generation, which is very sensible for that reasons, but at the other end, we need also the knowledge how you do that. And that's a combination of that. But to answer your question, yeah, it's really important in all Swiss universities. And here I'm the head of the Center of Sustainability, so we are the core of that. So we are looking that sustainability goes through the universities.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Well, although the youngsters not designing expensive watches, but still we have expensive watches from Switzerland. Another follow-up question, actually, that's from Dr. Ong. It's still about the environment and the sustainability. How do you see the growth and the development on all this area in Switzerland?
Yeah, it's actually it's huge. Let's say one example is the food production. So, for example, we have these tables of carbon footprint of food. And before that, we ate fruit from Africa, meat from South America. Also, Asian food is very popular here. But now people began to think, what do we eat? Where is it grown? Under what circumstances is it grown? And this is very interesting because it started to create startups which are producing food in a different way here in Switzerland. For example, we just have a research project with one small startup which is producing herbs on a very different way all around the year without sun in a, let's say a very controlled environment. And this is very interesting to see these new ideas coming up.
Yeah, thank you. There's also one question from the floor, which also go between the education system in Switzerland. So you mentioned there is a chart that you show. There's a pathway going up to progress in their career. There's one stream on the apprentice and the other stream on the bachelor. So what does this mean? How's the difference?
Yeah, people do not understand that really, but you must know that Switzerland had for a long time in his history had no real universities, because I said before we were poor, we were very applied, and we did things with our hands, skilled people. And the apprenticeship is really the main pillar of our education. And the apprenticeship is offered by companies, but there is a governmental system behind that. So it's very controlled from the government. So if you learn, for example, mechanical engineer, then you go through a 4-year step-by-step education in a company. The company guarantees your education, and you have to go 1 or 2 days per week to a professional school. And this is the apprenticeship. So we are focused on one specific discipline, and we have this all around. We have hairdressers doing that, cooks, physics, etc. This is in a company in the private sector, and parallel to that, you can choose also to go to a university or University of Applied Science and do more academical way. But in a way, it crosses earlier or later. So we say always, look, you learn something in university, now apply it to the industry. And vice versa, we say to people, now you learned a job on your practice, and now you take this knowledge and skills and you go to a university and improve your academical knowledge. And so this is always crossed. And the good thing here is, and this is in difference to a lot of European country, there is no cul-de-sac. So that means there is no end. You can, even if you are 50, you can do an academic career or a professional career. So everything is interconnected. And this is, I think, let's say the success model, which is completely different. And now a lot of smaller countries start to copy that.
Yeah, actually, the apprenticeship in Hong Kong, our vocational education actually is working on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This may be the last questions that I'd like to ask, which is, I find it interesting because actually I looked through the website and also your lecture on Monday. There is very small mini car, electric car, which is called the Microlino?
Microlino, yes.
Microlino, yes, that's made in Zurich and designed in Zurich. And the interesting way is for the product language, when we look at a lot of designs from Switzerland, they are precision, of course. They're very serious. You have horizontal line, vertical line, things like that. But for this Microlino car, basically it looks more funky, it looks more interesting, more like an Italian design. So it's also a startup, isn't it? So
yeah.
Is it anything changes in the design style, the form and the style on Swiss design when things changes?
Yes, I mean, the designers saw that they have to open up a bit, because I said before the export market is very important for us.
Right.
And you see it a little bit with these watches, which
right.
are very poppy, very colorful. So we saw that it's not only this very precise functional Swiss design, so we have also to open up. And this Microlino car is a good example. I'm completely convinced that it will be successful, as the Smart, which was 1 decade before, but it's a different approach to design than others have, and also combination of technology and design.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's been progressing and improving.
Exactly.
The drawing should be the last questions. You follow up the last question about the apprentice and the bachelor. So is there any difference in terms of the social status between these two streams?
No, that's people from abroad always ask that. You have people who say, oh, my son or my daughter, she has to go to university because university gives a higher social status. But if you look here, we have some comparable studies, let's say with 40 years of age, somebody who has done the apprenticeship and done the career way has more salary than somebody who has done just, let's say, just the academical way. So in a way, here it's not a difference, not a difference in social status, not a real difference in salary. And if you look at, let's say, the 10 most important Swiss companies, they are led by people who started with an apprenticeship.
Right.
This is very important. And we always say to the young people, look, if you don't go to the university, you have a lot of options if you go to practical and the professional way, because we open up your bridges later. Because we see that the 15-year-old, and here you start with 15 years of age, the apprenticeship is probably not able to go to university because too young, too crazy, etc. But with 20, probably this changes after an apprenticeship. And then starts the academical career. So we open that, but we know that's a very expensive system, which because you don't pay salaries or you don't pay a fee here for education, but at the far end, it gives the country more money back than it invested, because you have highly skilled people who are then doing startups, being in an industry, doing good stuff.
Thank you very much. I think the person asking this question is planning to study in Switzerland.
Oh, great.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. It is a very excellent section with the lecture from Professor Krohn. This will end this section and this lecture. And for your information, we still have another lecture tomorrow, the same time, and contacted by Anne Human. And the topic is about contemporary Swiss architecture, consensus programs, and function and changes. That's a long topic. All right. Yeah. So we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Professor.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time then. All right.
Thank you. I wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.